be a very short agenda anyway. Number one on the agenda is we're going to need a motion in 2 weeks to change the on-street storage for unlicensed, uninspected, and dismantled vehicles. According to, well, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, there was a citation issued, and the attorney representing the defendant raised an argument, which District Justice made, he agreed with, that under the state regulations, if you have a vehicle that is not inspected and does not have a valid registration, that vehicle must be moving in order to cite a person. We have that same requirement, and our own ordinance does say if it is unregistered and uninspected according to the state ordinances and guidelines. But ours is really for a different purpose. It is to keep people from using the streets as part of their businesses, parking cars there. So anyhow, to make a long story short, I proposed, and I'll have it for the July meeting, that we amend our ordinance to get rid of all references to the state.
July or June?
July.
We'll do a motion in June.
The motion would be just authorizing us to prepare the ordinance. Then in July we'll have it. And it's still going to keep registration and inspection, but it's going to delete any and all reference to the state statutes.
And that's okay.
Yep.
We can make our own. We're referring to the state statute. In that we're referring to it, and by osmosis, the vehicle has to be moving, right?
Under the state statute.
Right.
If I get rid of that reference, I sent a letter to the district justice. I asked for his comment. He gave none, so that's what we're going to do.
So we're good with that.
Mhm.
In future.
We're going to set them if they're moving or not.
Beg your pardon?
We're setting them if they're moving or not.
Right. If, for example, if you have somebody doing body repair and they're parking their customers' vehicles in the streets, taking away the spaces, perhaps for residences.
If they're licensed and insured and inspected, then we can't do that.
No, we can't do anything.
But if they're uninspected and unlicensed, that's all.
Uninspected, or they lack registration or inspection. Yeah.
Okay.
Valid license plate or inspection. Still the same criteria, just no references.
No references to state.
Okay.
The next one on the list is the IDA's. They're doing a
TEFRA, yeah.
Thank you. Which I've done. This is a new word for me, but apparently they're going to come to the public meeting. They have to hold the meeting on in 2 weeks. They'll hold a mini public comment
At our
yes.
Here.
They'll have an opportunity for the public to speak.
Industrial Development Authority.
Right.
It's Latrobe Industrial.
One thing that's a little bit different for this one is, the IDA has statewide authority. They could have a project in Montgomery County if they so chose. This project is in Fayette County, Mount Macrina. I was there many years ago. And it's certainly legal and proper to do that. I know the question always comes up, well, if we give money to somebody, well, not give, but we go through the procedure. What about, local projects? And from my understanding, there are no local projects on the burner at this point.
So what does the TEFRA acronym stand for?
I'm just trying, it's tax. I have to think about that myself.
So they're going to come to us because the money is going to be spent somewhere else.
Well, any time that the IDA has a project, whether it's St. Vincent College or Mount Macrina in Fayette County, it makes no difference. There are certain procedures they have to go through. They have to have a public hearing in the municipality where the project is located, which in this case would be Uniontown. But they also must have a public hearing here. And then after the public hearing, there will be a resolution presented to council. And the resolution, in effect, authorizes the president of council, or the mayor in this case, to sign off on the project. I mean, that's how we've done it, hundreds of them like that.
It stands for tax exempt facility revenue note. Basically, there must be floating bond or note. They're supporting this. It's a $10 million obligation, 10.8.
We have no liability on the note. That's right in the resolution. And Mr. Lightcap will be here, I'm sure, with somebody from Mount Macrina to explain what the project is all about.
And we'll have this on the agenda, we'll have a spot for that public meeting. public hearing on that particular portion.
Okay.
Public
That'll
comment.
be before, that'll be the public hearing before.
Right, beforehand, correct.
Right. Next two are paving and salt bids. I mean, Joe, if you want to speak to that a little bit.
The salt bids, this year we're going to go with CoStars, which is a state program. I know after the weather today, you're wondering why I'm talking about salt. But it's time to buy. I don't have the price for you tonight per ton, but I'll have that for the next meeting. Where we're at with the paving program is I turned over a list of streets to Gibson Thomas. Danny Schmidt is going to come back with a cost estimate on each street. From that cost estimate, I will be able to whittle it down and to see, you know, what all we can do for the funds we have available this year. This year we have $150,000, and that counts design, inspection, and engineering.
And how many yards of pavement does $150,000 cost?
Not very many. And also, I checked with the county. The county has not received their money yet for the CDBG paving program this year. We were okayed on it, but they have not received their money yet. So in turn, I can't say when we are going to be getting Levine Street paved this year. And also Depot Street, we're going to allow the water company to piggyback again this year on our paving program to do it. That would be from Lincoln up to Raymond. That's it. Thank you.
I would offer a thought, why don't we have a motion at this meeting to authorize the city manager or his designee to seek bids for the paving program. That way, if we're between meetings and they can go ahead and start to get the bids in, there's no sense of waiting until the next meeting to get that accomplished. I mean, we have to get the bids in and vote on them, obviously.
Right.
But the longer we wait, the bigger the problems are usually in the fall. So this way, I would just suggest giving the city manager or Joe the authority to go ahead and seek bids once they finally determine which streets.
Yeah, we're going to give them that okay at the meeting.
Right.
To seek the bids once you get all your information.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, the salt bid, we don't need, that's a CoStars. That's already bid by the state, so you don't need to have that money locked for bids for that.
Just
Right.
Resolution for the.
We just
Well, yeah, once we get the price for resolution triggering.
Right.
I'm just saying you don't lock for bids because the state's done all that for you. Last on the hit parade is sergeant's testing changes. I know Jim wanted to talk about that.
The chief has asked for certain changes to the,
The other two.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Yeah, that's all right, go ahead.
To the civil service regulations, and he can go into detail more on that. In any event, I'm pretty sure it's a resolution, so I would have a resolution ready, and basically it's going to amend the regulations regarding testing for various officers, not just the sergeant, but for lieutenants and corporals as well. Chief?
For the last 20 years, we've been going by a standardized test, and it hasn't been working out real well. I think every time, including prior to me being promoted as sergeant, the test had to be given 2, sometimes 3 times because no one would get the required score. We even lowered the required score. The standardized tests aren't very applicable to our department. They're hit and miss. I mean, and there's not a lot of variety in them. They're not designed very well for a small department. They're more of a big city type department. What I want to do is I want to have a standardized test that everyone has to take, and then after the test is taken, the scores are ranked, how they score on the test. Then an objective panel of law enforcement officials, chiefs from other departments, who have no interest in the officers or the department, would give an oral interview, 10 oral questions, and then combine the scores for the promotion.
And what scale and what grading scale would you use? The same standard you use now?
Actually, it would be, the score of the written test would be the same standards as we use now as far as scoring. The actual company who sends us the test, does the scoring, say they come back with a 69 and they get 70% on the oral, you combine the scores and each one would get a rank.
So you're going to put the two together? You put
Yes,
the written score,
correct.
The oral score together, and you have a schematic to come up with what score you have to be at in order to get to be
Correct.
a sergeant or a lieutenant or a corporal?
Correct. That way, we can tailor the questions more toward our type of promotion, the type of sergeant that we need. Most of the departments in the area do that. In fact, I sat on several panels before in Blairsville, Salzburg, when they did some.
We're just going to ask you that question, if you've been involved with other communities in a
As an
program
objective.
the same way, yeah, as an
Yes.
objective
Yes, I have.
officer.
And what
I
they,
need to ask you two questions, Jim. If, say you have 5 candidates taking the test. As I understand it right now, I think your passing grade is 80? Am I
no,
right?
it's actually down to 70.
Okay, it's 70.
75.
So if
That's
all 5
eliminated.
passed
That's eliminated,
altogether,
yes.
so there is no, so everyone will get the interview, no matter the highest to the
Yes,
lowest
right,
score?
Right, that's correct.
There's no
Then
passing
you add
grade,
the
only
scores
those
of the
get.
oral interview.
Okay.
The problem with this cutoff, you may have someone who is very deserving of that promotion, who doesn't make the cutoff score, and the last person you'd want promoted may be the only one that makes the cutoff score. You're stuck promoting them. And that has happened in the past. It didn't work out real well. So I think this is the most fair way to do it and the most applicable to our department.
Most objective way.
Right. And I do have it outlined, and the reason, is it okay to give me the?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
The reason the chief position and captain position will remain the same, those are in the civil service regs and in the borough code, they're a non-competitive exam.
Okay.
Sometimes, a captain and a chief can just, sergeants can't, so there's a little bit of difference there. That's why it's designated in the layout.
Are the oral questions, is that a set thing, just like the standardized test? What if you would ask the same questions to everyone?
Yes. The panel would,
And where do you get those?
the panel would discuss the questions, most likely from previous interviews and previous, promotions.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a question. Like when you said 70% was difficult to get, can you explain like maybe why that's?
The test.
I mean, first of all, is it like your regular scores, you get 100%, 90, 87, it's
Right.
like that? And they're not, and you're saying.
There hasn't been a time that a standardized test was given here that anybody passed it the first time. It usually had to be repeated a second or third time, and then only 1 or 2 people would pass it. It's not geared to this type of police work. You'll have questions like referring to transit authority bus, things that the guys are just really sidetracked by the questions. It's not what you would think it would be. It's really different.
Sounds like it's geared for larger
It's
departments.
geared for city departments, and the bad part about it is, I had so many complaints in the last 2 tests that I searched for another standardized test, and there was only one other company that I could find that had a standardized police test. And what happens is, to get a standardized police test, you have to join whatever organization's putting, like the Human Resource Commission of the United States or whatever, like you have to pay a $300 or $400 fee to join that, and each test, it gets pretty expensive when you keep juggling around trying to find a good test. But like I said, I searched for a couple months, and I only came up with one other company that did a standardized test. The one we always used was recommended by the Pennsylvania Chief of Police Association, and everyone complained about that. No one was passing it. We lowered the score, they still weren't passing it, so I found another one, and I have no idea what it's going to be. I assume from the breakdown of what they say the questions are about, it's probably similar to the others. Standardized is standardized.
Jim, can I ask a question? Do veterans' preference
No.
play any effect
Not on
in promotions?
promotions.
Not in promotions. Okay, just initial hire.
Right.
So-
Just to give you an example, this last test I ordered, they told me a reading a study list for the test of 6 books for the test. Each book, I think the cheapest book was $124. So I rented the books till October. So, like I said, you're getting into, when you keep testing and keep, juggling around scores and things like that, it's getting into a lot of expense. I mean, I could only afford to get one book. In the perfect scenario, everybody would have a set of books, but you would be talking $3,000 just for studying, and there's guys that won't even open the books. So, they'll take the test. So it's a pricey undertaking.
On the test, the questions pertain to the law, procedure, both.
It's broken down into 4 or 5 categories. Supervisory, there's spelling and report writing, general law questions. What I would like to see is more policy and procedure that are tailored more toward, our department and the departments in this area.
Can you make your own test up?
You can. That's very, very time consuming and very difficult. When I started here, the Civil Service Committee actually made up their own sergeant's test when they first promoted sergeants. They did make up the test, but then again, Chuck Chamberlain was on the Civil Service Committee, and he was a law teacher at the high school, so he put together a pretty applicable test. It was pretty good. I can remember that test. And you can make up, and you also can have tests made up for your department. You send them your policy and procedure manual, your population, and your statistics, and they create a test, but it's very, very expensive.
Right.
It's like $5,000 or $6,000. So, I think this way is the most economical and fairest way to go.
So what do we need to do?
Resolution, basically, I'm going to go into the regulations and see where we have the section on promotion of officers, and then the chief's suggestions will be put into that section in some form, be by resolution. I think the last time we revised our regs was in the mid-90s, 96, somewhere in that area.
Anything else? More questions on it? That's all you have, Wayne?
Short list, yeah, it's summertime.
Two things just to bring up to council. No new activity at the moment on the Act 537. I know that the LMA and UTMA are offering comments to this codicil that will be attached to the 1973 agreement. They're reviewing it, and at this point, I'm staying out of their way. The people who have the greatest stake in this, so they need to offer their comments and come to an agreement, which I think they're doing. The other thing is, last month we passed a motion to have me prepare an ordinance on amending parking fees and such, and that will come probably in July. We still have to meet and sit down and look at the area and how we want to go about doing this, just to keep council apprised.
Any update on our RCAP grant?
Diane, who is with Gibson Thomas and has really been working diligently, she's been gone. She was involved in all that.
Right, she was out.
And she's now back. She's back about 3 weeks, and she's already ticked a few things off the list. So she's working on it pretty diligently. I'm not sure, but something probably within the next month, we're going to have a meeting with the RCAP people and sit down and go over the list again, just to make sure we're exactly where we are. I know she's knocked off some skill search, which are pretty important. She's got to do about, she gets between 85 and 90% of the loans, where that's fine. And we have a dollar criteria we have to meet. Once we meet that dollar criteria.
Right, there's a certain item.
Yeah, it's just enough to cover the grant money.
Right.
One less item on the meeting. I just noticed at the last meeting, we did authorize the Director of Public Works to advertise.
I thought we did that.
Yeah, so we don't have to do that at this meeting.
One thing I'd like to bring up is it doesn't get said enough about what's going on in this town and what's the good things that are happening in this town. It was brought to my attention, and I thank Mr. Bolton. The Let's Go Federal Credit Union, nice new building going in town down there. Going down there, going to sharpen up that end of town. It's going to be, something on the tax rolls, which will help us. But it's good to see a nice addition to a business in town, expanding, increasing their footprint, increasing their visibility here in town, and offering more services. Drive-through service is going to be offered down there. So I think I would like to just say thanks to Let's Go for sticking with the town, sticking with Latrobe, and investing here, and all the businesses that continue to do that, we'll try to recognize them and tell them thanks, because it doesn't get said enough about the people that pulling ourselves up by their own bootstraps, no tax money, no asking for any forgiveness or anything. They just are going to build this. They tore down some buildings. They build a new building and see what happens with their old building. But I think it's a good thing going on in this town, a lot of good things going on. And don't forget, Dave's not here, but next week, First Ward Firemen having their fair down there. We're all one big department here in the city of Latrobe, and like to try to help the firemen here in town do the best they can to meet their bills and meet their needs and provide the service that they do to the city. And that's one fundraiser that I know Company One relies on for that. So it's a good turnout at the Memorial Day festivities on Monday, yesterday. Very pleased with the crowd that was in town. It was a nice weather, the crowd were there, and a lot of sincere people. I saw a lot of people shaking the hands of current service members and past service members, thanking them for their service that they've given to the country, so that we could have an event like that and speak the way we want to speak, how we want to speak, in freedom, because of the sacrifices they have made. And Monday was a dedication to the people that made the ultimate sacrifice for us, so that we could all live in this country as free as we do. And I'm just proud that Latrobe still continues to do that. Glad that I was able to be a part of that. And Latrobe still continues to carry on a tradition of honoring all those who gave the ultimate, so that we could be free and still live in this country, the best country in the world. That's all I have. Anything else? If not, that's a wrap.